How many times have you started losing weight, looked worse, and then quit because you were discouraged and you lost all your motivation because nothing was working? You were trying everything. You started moving a little bit on the scale, but then your body started looking different. You just look like a smaller version of yourself. This is something that a lot of my clients deal with on a regular basis, especially when we first start. They'll notice we start tracking our food, we pay attention to our calories, and then all of a sudden it's like, okay, yeah, the scale is changing, but I feel like I'm getting weaker. Like I'm not as strong. I look smaller when I look in the mirror. Why exactly is that? Well, when you first start losing fat, a lot of the time you are losing water and glycogen that is stored in the form of water within your muscles. Your muscles are over 70% water. So when you start losing a bunch of fat, you realize that the muscles aren't as full. They don't look as rounded. You look what we call flat as well. So you're not just losing a bunch of water, but the water in the muscles aren't making you look as pumped. And as you start to descend in weight, sometimes you'll be 30% body fat and then you'll cut down to 20% body fat and you're like, wow, I literally just look like a smaller version of what I was. I don't look as powerful. I don't look as strong. My muscles aren't popping as much. That is literally just for the sake of glycogen being stored in the muscle. That's why oftentimes when people go on these keto diets, they'll lose a whole bunch of weight and they're like, wow, I lost a frick ton of weight. And then they start adding carbs back into their diet and they're like, oh, okay, I just gained all that weight back. And it's because oftentimes they lost just all that glycogen. And same thing goes when you're actually losing a bunch of fat at first because you haven't gotten lean yet. You're getting close, but you're not quite there. On top of that, when you start to lean out, you'll notice you'll lose a lot of fat in like your chest area, maybe your arms, maybe even like your facial fat. A lot of my clients notice especially that their face leans out first. But the thing is, sometimes you hold stubborn fat in places like your belly area, the back fat area, the love handle area. That's the biggest one. That's the most annoying one for me. That's the most annoying one for many of my clients. So that is super common as well. So you'll notice that sometimes you'll lose fat in different areas first. It's not that you can just spot reduce something. It's not that if I say, oh yeah, if I just do a bunch of bicep curls or if I just do a bunch of tricep push downs, I'm just going to lose a bunch of fat jangling right here. No, it's more so the idea that if you, let's say theoretically, just work your chest out, it's like, yeah, as you're working that muscle out, the muscle is going to protrude more. That does not mean you're burning all the fat in the chest area. It works very differently like that. When you are losing your fat overall, you first have to decrease the overall body fat percentage, and then you will genetically lose it where you lose it. But some people store it in their legs, some people store it completely in their gut, and then some people will store it in other places like their glutes, for example. But it really depends on the person, and then it depends on the history as well. So when this happens and you start to notice, oh, I have a couple arm veins going, or I notice my pump is looking better, but it's only when I work out, but I'm still looking smaller in the mirror overall. So what's going on with that? One of the biggest things you want to pay attention to is just what I like to call to my clients, putting your foot on the gas. You have to keep your foot on the gas. The moment you take your foot off, you will start drastically, like it's so easy to just snowball back downhill the other way. The goal is when you focus on your inputs and you really pay attention to what you are doing, you realize, hey, this is good. This is kind of working, but I'm not quite where I want to be yet. On top of that, you might notice there's not a huge visible difference, but on the inside, on the internal health markers, you're striving everywhere. You're making a lot of progress, but because those aren't visible, those are harder to see, you don't pay as much attention to them and you start to lose motivation because of that. On the inside, things like your blood pressure will start to drop, assuming most people are already high on the first place. Your inflammation will start to decrease over time. And then even things like your cholesterol will start to change as well. And you'll notice, wow, I have more energy than I did before. I don't have all this extra weight. I don't have all this extra fat that's kind of weighing me down and just draining my energy. You'll notice your testosterone oftentimes will start to climb up as well, meaning, better libido and better energy just day to day, better drive, better motivation even when it comes to testosterone. And so all these internal changes are happening, but because you can't visibly see the difference, it's very tough to stay motivated and to stay locked in and to make sure you're continuously progressing in this way. Now, another big part of this too is a lot of my clients will say, hey, am I losing muscle right now? Like, I've lost 20 pounds. Am I losing? Is that a bunch of muscle? Is that muscle? How much of that is muscle versus fat? Is it like 20 pounds of fat and 5 pounds of muscle. How is this working right now? Because like I said, I just feel smaller. And so it's not necessarily the idea that you are losing muscle, especially if you are on this fat loss journey, you're on this weight loss journey, and you are consistently going to the gym, you're staying consistent on that front, you're going to have a much better time of actually maintaining what you have and then building muscle on top of that. Because chances are you probably don't have nearly as much muscle because you weren't as consistent with the gym or as consistent with your diet. But when you have those in tandem where your nutrition is in check and you are going to the gym consistently and you're losing a bunch of weight, but you still feel like you're just a smaller version of yourself, then yes, you are not necessarily losing muscle. You're losing a lot of glycogen in the muscle, which makes you appear smaller. And then you're actually maintaining, or if not building, muscle on top of that. But one of the best ways to track this, which is what I'll do with my clients, is I'll say, hey, let's look at your recent logs on your workouts, like your bench press, your squat, bicep curls, whatever it might be. Are we maintaining numbers as close to the original as possible? Depending on the experience of the lifter, if it's a brand new lifter, oftentimes they're going to hit what I call PRs, personal records, and they'll be like, hey coach, I just hit like 10 PRs this workout. Awesome. Absolutely amazing. That's phenomenal. That means they are getting stronger and continuously building muscle. But if the person is more of an experienced lifter, like let's say they played football in high school, they played some sort of sports 10 years ago, they already have an underneath foundation of muscle and strength that they haven't necessarily seen in a while because they might be a little bit overweight now. But the fact that we can tap into that muscle memory and bring that out of them means their numbers are going to look a little bit different. So with some of my more advanced guys, meaning let's say they played sports growing up, they did a lot of weightlifting, and now they just look like a smaller version of themselves. We track what their numbers are looking like. Hey, is your bench press decreased by a lot? Is it decreased by a little? Is it increasing? What's going on here? More often than not, when you are, let's say you go from 230 pounds down to 185 pounds, your strength is going to look a lot different because your absolute strength is the number that you're actually pressing. I bench 200 pounds for 10 reps. Okay, cool. Your absolute strength is 200 pounds. But if you do that same 200 pounds for 10 reps, and now you go from 230 to 185, your relative strength is way stronger. So relatively, you are way stronger bang for buck. Like for your body weight, you are doing better than what you were when you were heavier. Now, what comes with that when you are so much lighter, not just the testosterone, not just the cholesterol, not just all those health markers, but your body works more efficiently too. So by us having a higher relative strength, we now have bigger goals to strive for because we can go for percentages, not just the absolute number, because that absolute number for someone who weighs 300 pounds is way different for someone who weighs 185 pounds. So if you're being consistent with the gym, you're tracking your workouts, you're looking at your numbers, your goal is going to be, as you lose a bunch of weight and you have more experience in the gym, you are going to want to try to uphold those numbers as best as you can. Yes, oftentimes the weight is going to drop. Even for myself this year, I'm 25 pounds down. Yes, I am not nearly as strong as I was when I was 25 pounds heavier because of the experience I have in the gym. But at the same time, my goal is to uphold those numbers as best I can. So my relative strength right now is pretty darn solid, even though I'm not hitting the exact same absolute numbers as I was previously. That's not a problem. It's realistic. It's normal. You're going to feel better anyways in the long run, as long as you can keep that in your head and not get discouraged because of it. Now, on top of that, when it comes to this whole entire losing, you're looking worse before you're getting lean situation, which is why most people quit just the moment that happens, and then the moment they don't feel as motivated anymore. With all of this, you have to remember that patience is going to be absolutely huge because you're at this weird tipping point of you're like, oh, I'm not really big, I'm not really filling my t-shirts out, but at the same time, I do feel a little bit better. And when you hit that tipping point of just starting to see veins, maybe just starting to see a little bit of cuts in the abs, or just starting to get more of your beach body style or physique, you're so close to that tipping point that most people will quit there. But the idea is you want to continue to go and you want to focus on your inputs. We can't necessarily control the exact numbers you're going to hit every single day. As far as the gym goes, you can't necessarily control exactly where your body weight is going to land every single day. It's like, oh, dang, I was 0.2 higher than I wanted to be. It's not like you have direct control over that specific number, but what you do have control over is your inputs. What are you putting into your mouth? Are you tracking your calories? Are you getting a sufficient amount of sleep so your body can go through its regulatory systems and processes? Are you doing all of these things? And with a lot of my clients, we'll reassess the data, we'll look at those numbers, we'll see, hey, what are we missing here? Cool, your activity level might be a bit low. Or hey, I noticed we didn't track food for a few days. What happened? And then you'll start to notice, oh yeah, wait a minute, I had birthday cake and then I had a couple of drinks. Yeah, it was my friend's birthday or whatever. And we'll start to notice, okay, cool, if we can fix this challenge right here and you can continue to focus on your inputs, now you have to be patient and now you have to, like I said earlier, keep your foot on the gas. You cannot hold up, you cannot give up. The goal is to get to that tipping point. Most people quit right here and then let it snowball from there. Because the perfect thing is you only have to get lean one time and then you're good to go. It is so much easier to maintain being lean than it is to actually getting lean. So that's the perk. That's the light at the end of the tunnel. But the more that you can focus on what you are doing and your actions, the better chance that your results are going to reflect that. It really is. When it comes to your health, it really is. Whatever you put in is what you're going to get out of it. So keep that in mind. If you are somebody who's been challenged with this and who's really struggled with starting to lose a bunch of weight, but they're starting to look worse and then you get demotivated, there's a one-on-one coaching application in my description down below. Feel free to fill that out. Let me know you came from this video. I'll reach out to you. I'll see what I can do for you, and then we'll go from there. If you enjoyed this video or if anything resonated with you, be sure to drop a like down below, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.